It is Thursday. Jesus is gathered with his disciples in the upper room. And during the course of the meal in friendship, and they're so close to Jesus that they're having a special time together. It's like having a party at your house with your family. You just want to hold on to it. During that course of that meal, Jesus takes bread and equates it with his body. This is my body, which will be given up for all of you. Take and eat it. A few moments later, he takes the wine and equates that with his blood. Take this, all of you, and drink from it. And then he shares that with all of his disciples. The disciples that night probably weren't that sure why Jesus was speaking in such veiled language. It was different than every other meal they had shared. Jesus knew what the next day would hold, and so did Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. He had a pretty good idea what he was about to do and what Jesus would face. Now we move on to Friday. As Jesus is traveling through the town and through the road, and he's making his way up to Mount Calvary, the crowd is mocking at him and jeering and scoffing at Jesus. The disciples had to be confused. It was just yesterday we shared this incredible meal together, and now everything has fallen apart. What's going on? I didn't realize the next day, Friday, would turn out like this. And then when Jesus is crucified up on that cross, when Jesus takes his last breath, and one by one, not immediately all, but after Jesus takes his last breath, the disciples are looking up at Christ as he lowers his head. And they wait, each one for a certain amount of time. But one by one, including the mother of Jesus, they would have to leave Mount Calvary and descend that mountain. When they were walking down the mountain as individual disciples, each with their own mind, what do you think they were saying? What do you think they wanted back? Now, it's not recorded in the scriptures what each of them said and what each of them wanted back. What do you think they wanted back? Any idea? After they watched their friend crucified and their friend now dead, they didn't know the future. And they didn't know what was going to happen the next day. They didn't realize what was going to happen early Sunday morning. All they knew at that point is their friend who shared this incredible meal with, their leader, the person they were following, has just died. Murdered. Do you think they wanted back? What do you think they were asking for? What do you think they were praying for? I think I found out. You know, this morning we had the Chrism Mass in Greensburg. Great, it's a beautiful Mass. I love the Chrism Mass. And during the course of the Chrism Mass, there's a renewal of priestly vows. Because on Holy Thursday night, when Jesus is in the upper room with his disciples, he institutes two sacraments, priesthood and the Eucharist. And so Holy Thursday at the Chrism Mass, year after year after year, it's always the same. The bishop always has all the priests that are gathered to renew their priestly vows. Holy Thursday is the anniversary of the priesthood. It's not necessarily the anniversary of each individual priest. We have our own individual anniversaries, the day that we were ordained priests. For me, May the 1st. But the priesthood itself is Holy Thursday. So naturally, whenever I go to Holy Thursday Mass or whenever I go to ordination Mass celebration, I think about my priesthood and that which I encountered. So as we're preparing to renew our priestly vows, and as that process is going on, and shortly after the process is over, I'm thinking about my ordination. And several key points. I'm thinking about the day I was ordained, which was a Saturday. It was early Sunday morning. Now, at this point, I'd only been a priest about maybe 11, 12 hours. It was literally about 5 o'clock in the morning, and a phone rings at my parents' home because I was staying with them at that time. And when a phone rings, I answer the phone, and it was an officer from the Marysville Police Department. A fellow that I knew well. We went to school together. We graduated from high school together. We hung out together. He had to become a police officer about 2 months before I was ordained a priest, about 2 months before that day. So when I got on the phone, he said to me, he said, Kenny, he said, a fella committed suicide here in Marysville. He said, I have to go inform the father. They live in 2 different locations. I know you were ordained yesterday because I was at your ordination. I'm going to your celebration later on this afternoon, but I had night duty. Would you please come with me? So he came to the house to pick me up, and I'm waiting outside. He gets there about 5:15 in the morning. I get in the car. And I said to him, well, you've been a police officer about 2 months now. Have you ever done this before? Informed the family of someone that just died? And he said, no. I said, well, I haven't either. And he said to me, well, that's why I stopped to get you, because I figured you could do it for me. So as I'm in the car, and my heart is pounding. You know, you do the studies in the seminary, and every time you have a test, and you just want to do well in a test. But there comes that day when the rubber meets the road, and it was that morning, my first full morning as a priest. We're traveling to this house to tell this father that his son had committed suicide by gun. And saying to myself, what am I going to tell this father? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to tell him. Too bad I answered the phone. I'm really kind of scared at this point. So I'm saying, God, let me know what to say. We played these scenarios out in role play in the seminary. We'd talk certain situations out with the professor. But it's one thing to be talking in the comfort of a classroom. It's another thing to actually have to do it. So I remember we got to the house. And when the father looked out the window as we're ringing a doorbell and actually sees this police officer and sees me. And lo and behold, it was a house of a fellow that I knew. Not well, but someone that I knew. So he saw me. He saw me as a priest and this police officer. And we walked into his house, and I shared with him the news. I figure right after I tell him the news of what happened, now I'm going to have to come up with something to say. And then I discovered something absolutely amazing. That I didn't have to say anything. When I told him what happened, he melted and collapsed. And he collapsed, falling toward me, and I held on to him. As he's crying, and he's holding me, and I'm holding on to him and just kind of squeezing him to keep him from falling to the floor, he's just squeezing tight, and I'm squeezing tighter. And we stayed in that position probably 20 minutes. Lo and behold, that's all he was looking for at that time. There weren't any words I could say that would immediately, initially take the pain away. So all he wanted was just someone to hold him. After about 20 minutes, I take him to his chair, and then I sit in the next one, and my buddy, the police officer, sits in another chair. We're just sitting there somewhat in a little circle, just talking, just reminiscing about life and about his son. I'm there about 2 hours, and when I went to leave this father, he said something that I said to myself this morning, because I thought about it. As I was thinking about my priesthood, what this father said to me, I said to myself this morning, that's probably what the disciples said when they were walking off that mountain. Because what that father said those many, many years ago, I also heard those words from someone else. In my first assignment, my first Saturday night, in my first assignment, it is 1 month after you're ordained. So you're ordained a priest, you get 1 month off, and then the vacation's over. Mark, that's it. The vacation's over. So my very first Saturday night, after Mass, there was this young fellow, about 22 years old, brand new Mustang. He said to me, Father Ken, he said, I just picked up this Mustang, I just bought it. He said, would you bless my Mustang? Yeah, bring it around. I never blessed the car before, never blessed the Mustang before. And this was going to be an easy one for me, much more easier than telling the father that his son just committed suicide. So he brings the car around, and I get out the book that has the blessings, and I bless his car, and we have a nice conversation. After I get the car blessed, he gives me a little ride, and that was fun. He drops me back off. It was kind of an enjoyable night. Several days later, it's Tuesday, just after Saturday. I am at the Mr. Donut in Greensburg, having a donut and a cup. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I just finished my priestly calls at the Westmoreland Hospital. And for my little treat, as I usually do now, I usually go to a place to have a cup of coffee and a donut. So I'm sitting there having my cup of coffee and donut, and I hear this noise coming up Route 30, headed west. And I look, and it's this fella in his Mustang. Here's that kid in that Mustang. Look at that crazy guy. 22, and I'm only 25, so we're about the same age, and I can see him. Oh, is he moving? I said to myself, I think he's going too fast. Is he going straight, or is he going to make the bend? So if you're familiar with the section I'm talking about, this Mr. Donut is just about where Kentucky Fried Chicken is nowadays. It's just opposite Westmoreland Mall. So when you're traveling 30 west at that point, you got two selections. You can continue on straight if you're in the right side lane and work your way into Greensburg itself, or you can make a little bend in the road that continues on into 30 and work your way down Route 30 west. So I watch him just flying up in that passing lane. He is really, really moving. And I said to myself, I was excited to see him having a good time in his car. Another piece of me said, but that is too fast. That is too fast. A couple seconds later, I hear this incredible bang, this noise. Then I looked out the window of Mr. Donut, and I could see the smoke and the flames. So I quickly left, and I jumped in my car, and I drove up to see what was going on, and it was his car. He was headed 30 west. And there's a bridge there, kind of a viaduct, and he hit that bridge abutment, and his car burst into flames. When I got there, clearly I could tell that he had passed. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go straight to his parents' home. Because the day I blessed his car, they were there and then invited me to their home. I hadn't made it to their home yet, but they told me where they lived. So I went straight to their house. When I arrived at their house, I know for a fact at this point, this is before scanners and cell phones and all this stuff, I knew at this point no one had informed the family of what had happened. I would be the first. I'm thinking then, the same thing I thought a month earlier, what am I going to say to them? When I got to the house, they open up the door and they have a smile on their face because they invited me to their home anytime I wanted to stop and visit. So initially they thought I was stopping to visit. They were very gracious with a smile. But I think when they looked at my face, and I'm not sure what kind of look I had, I think that smile came off their face fast. I'm not sure what I looked like. And I walked in and I told them what I saw and what had happened. It was the mom this time, not the dad, but the mom. As I'm standing right in front of her, I tell her she did the same thing her father did a month earlier. She fell and melted right in my arms. I held on to her for about 20, 30 minutes, so just a long time. Her husband and myself eventually took her to her chair. And I stayed with them literally for hours. It was literally hours. And eventually, when it was time to go, this mom said something to me, which was the same thing that Father said to me, which I believe was the very thing the disciples said when they walked off that mountain. I believe when they walked off that mountain, one disciple at a time, because the day before, they had this incredible celebration. And I think they said to themselves, not that I would love to have Jesus back, they were probably thinking about that, but here's what I believe the disciples said: I'd give anything for yesterday, if I could have Thursday back. Because Thursday, just last evening, we're celebrating this meal with Jesus in the upper room. We're all one. He was alive. This father said to me, as I went with my buddy police officer to tell him his son committed suicide, when I went to leave his house, he said to me, I'd give anything to have yesterday back. Why? Because yesterday was the last full day in my son's life. If I could just have yesterday back, I would have spent the entire day with my son. If I could just have yesterday back, I would stick my son in a room and lock him up and make sure he was safe and would never be able to commit suicide. If I could have yesterday back, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to commit suicide because I would have been watching him the entire time. And that mother said the same thing. If I could just have had yesterday back, I would have spent the whole day with my son, holding his hands, hugging him, kissing him. I would have just been celebrating him. So as I was reminiscing about the priesthood, this first suicide, priest 11 hours. My first time telling parents that their son had died, a priest 1 month. As I was reminiscing about my priesthood, I was thinking about the glory of Holy Thursday. Every one of us have lived many Holy Thursdays. Every one of us probably would love to have, figuratively, a Holy Thursday back. When you think about all the people in your life you loved and lost, and all those people you've lost tragically, well, you never saw it coming. Either car accident, suicide, drug overdose, whatever the case might be. When you lose someone tragically, what do we want back? We want that person back naturally. But figuratively, we want Holy Thursday back, as the disciples probably wanted their Holy Thursday back when they were walking off of Mount Calvary. Because yesterday, I had my loved one with me. And today they're gone. I would have to say that all of us, what we want to make sure we do in life is to always let those folks know that we love them and enjoy them and celebrate time with them. And when you are with someone you love and you're in their presence, put the cell phone away, put every kind of distraction away, and just enjoy them while they're right there in front of you. Why? Because today might be your Holy Thursday. Today just might be the very last time you're going to ever see that person alive again. That might never happen to you, and hopefully it never does. It has to me. Several times. Not the stories I just shared, but several times in my life. When you say, God, I would give anything to have yesterday back. Because yesterday, this person I loved so much, they're gone forever. If I could have them back, I would put them in a room and lock them up, and they would never leave me. Holy Thursday is a beautiful day in which we celebrate the priest of the Eucharist. But I think figuratively, Holy Thursday is a day that we have to think in our lives. How many times we want a Holy Thursday back? So we never know when the last time we're going to share a smile, conversation, or hug or kiss with anyone we love and anyone we enjoy. We have to make sure that while they're right in front of us, they know we love them. And they know we appreciate them. We give them our full attention. Because when someone comes knocking on your door and says your loved one was just killed in a car accident, they just overdosed in a hotel, or they just committed suicide in a back alley, you might cry out and say, if I could just have Holy Thursday, if I could just have yesterday back. So before you want it back, enjoy it the best you can.